Hello, there you are. I've been waiting for you, friends. Anyways, before everything else, I have a question for you. Do you know yourself? Have you ever wondered why you behave, think, and act the way you do? If you do, this video will help you know and understand yourself better.
Hi. Welcome to Understanding the Self. Before anything else, we must first need to understand the philosophical perspective on self. But what is philosophy? Philosophy makes use of the inquiring mind to figure out what the ultimate causes, motives, and principles of things are. Philosophers are fascinated by the subject of the self. Self-awareness is a requirement for living a happy and meaningful life, according to philosophers. In history of philosophy, Socrates and Plato, the ancient Greek philosophers, were the first to propose a conceptual framework for comprehending oneself. Know thyself, Socrates advises. Many philosophers of that time made major contributions to the sociological perspective of the self. And these are my three favorite philosophers, and their contributions. Socrates and his famous dictum: an unexamined life is not worth living. According to Socrates, the soul is equivalent with the self, and he also stated that death is the soul's departure for the everlasting realm. Plato and his dictum: the soul is immortal. Plato thought that the person and the soul are one and the same, for the reason that the spirit or emotion, and bodily hunger are the three aspects of the self. Lastly, Aristotle and his dictum: the soul is the essence of the self. He believes that the body and the soul are not two distinct entities, but rather one. The soul is merely the physical form of the body, and it cannot live without it. We all have our own perspectives on ourselves. It is up to you to decide who will you believe and what are you going to believe, but at the end of the day, we must accept and respect each other's opinions and perspectives.
Good day, everyone. Are you all familiar with sociology? If not, let me tell you what sociology is all about. Sociology is the study of human or social behavior, society, and as well as the social interaction and relationships that surround our everyday life. Do you know George Herbert Mead? Mead is the father of sociology, and he stated that the self is not there from birth, but it is developed during the process of social experiences. Mead proposes the two compounds of the self which the person has. These compounds include the I and the me. Me is defined as the characteristics, behavior, and actions, while the I is the reaction of the individual to the attitude of the others. Mead proposes 3 role-playing stages in which a person has to go through for one, to develop oneself. These stages are preparatory stage, play stage, and game stage. In preparatory stage, also known as language stage, the infant simply mimics or imitates an action, while in play stage, children begin to interact. Lastly, in the game stage, children finally know their roles and the rules in every game. In this chapter, we will realize that we are not just individuals, but rather social beings who are deeply connected in society.
Hi again, everybody. I will be discussing anthropology. But first, what is anthropology? To answer that question, anthropology is concerned with the interconnections of cultural and biological elements that shape human experience. As we go more into this subject, we will come across anthropological instances. Did you know that there are 4 subdisciplines of anthropology? They are cultural anthropology, archaeological anthropology, biological or physical anthropology, and linguistic anthropology. Cultural anthropology: this is a study of social and cultural similarities and differences. It also explores the diversity of the present and the past. Archaeological anthropology is the study of human behavior and cultural patterns through material remains, such as plants, animals, and ancient garbage. Biological or physical anthropology: focuses on human evolution as revealed by the fossils, and other factors and non-human primates. While linguistic anthropology studies a language in its social and cultural context across space and over time. Self-concept refers to a person's psychological, physical, and social attitudes, thoughts, and beliefs. Culture has a significant impact on an individual's life, contributing significantly to their self-concept. According to Edward Taylor, knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, conventions, and other capabilities gained by man are all part of the culture. Many elements in our environment can influence how we communicate, how we live, how we cope with difficulties, and many other things, and we cannot deny that culture has a big impact on an individual's life.
Hi everyone. Let me ask you something. Do you completely know and understand yourself? Watch this video to learn something. The self and its selves. William James introduced the principles of psychology, a numerous and distinction of self. He described the two aspects of self that he termed the I self and me self. Me self is learned in interaction with others and with the environment. On the other hand, I self reflects what other people perceive themselves as doing in the world. James also claimed that the understanding of the self can be separated into three categories. 1. Its constitutes. 2. The feelings and emotions they arouse, also known as self-feeling. 3. The action to which they prompt, also known as self-seeking and self-preservation. He also wrote the three subcategories of self, which are material self, social self, and spiritual self. Material self pertains to something that is labeled as mine. We are more attached to these things because of the investments we give into these things. Social self. It is based on our interaction with the society, and the reaction of people towards us. This taught us to have multiple versions of ourselves. Spiritual self. It is most intimate self because they have the ability to discriminate one's moral sensibility, conscience, and indomitable will. On the other hand, Carl Rogers had come up with the three sides of triangle concept of self. These are the perceived self or self-worth. This is how the person sees self and others sees. The real self or self-image. This is how the person really is. And the ideal self. This is how the person would like to be. Freud also had the concept that the mind is divided into three connected, but distinct parts. And these are the ID. It is the center of primitive, animalistic impulses and pleasure principles. Superego. It is the one that reminds the self of following morality principles. And ego, which is driven by rationality principles. Despite the different concepts of self, there is the true self, and the fake self. The true self is the authentic experience of being alive. While the fake self is the defense facade, who's contradicting the original sense of self. Learning about your true self can improve and understand yourself better. It is important to have a personal discovery on oneself, and what it means to be a human.
Hi people, do you know that there is a clash of civilizations that is plaguing the country right now? However, this is not officially and consciously acknowledged. This is the battle for dominance, and prisoners are not taken and captured. This is literally the war between the Eastern self versus the Western self. Western self focus on oneself and personal needs. On the other hand, Eastern self focus on others and the feelings of others. Let me show you the differences. Western culture is egoism, it focuses on oneself. While Eastern thought is collectivism, it focuses on others. Western thought is more of acquisition of material things, while Eastern thought is tilted towards lesser assets. Western culture is obsessed with being successful, whilst Eastern culture is inclined towards long life because they believe that it equated with wealth. Western celebrate and enjoy the youth and being youth, whilst Eastern values wisdom of years and seniority. Taken as a whole, these basic and subtle differences between Eastern and Western culture are taking its toll on Filipinos on which culture to adopt. How about you fellas? Which would you rather to follow and support? The Western influences or the Eastern ideas? If I will choose between the two, I would rather say that I am a global citizen. I am someone who has a Western education and an Eastern values.
Hello, everyone. As we all know, the physical self refers to our body, and it can be directly observed and examined. Moreover, many philosophers gave their insights about the body. First is William James. He said that the body is the first source of sensation, which is required for the formation of personality. Sigmund Freud, on the other hand, places the physical body at the center of human experience. While Wilhelm Reich stated that the mind and body are inseparable, all psychological processes are components of physical processes, and vice versa. Furthermore, Erik Erikson believes that experience is rooted in the body's ground plan. Carl Gustav Jung then argued that physical processes are only relevant to us to the extent that they are represented in the psyche. Lastly, B. F. Skinner regards the body as all that exists. Did you know that our physical self has a great impact on our self-esteem? But, let's define self-esteem first. Self-esteem refers to our overall subjective sense of personal worth. It is how much we like and appreciate ourselves. There are three kinds of self-esteem. First, inflated self-esteem. People with inflated self-esteem are those people who hold high regards of themselves that they underestimate others. Second, high self-esteem. These people are more confident and satisfied with themselves. Third, low self-esteem. People with low self-esteem do not value themselves and are not certain with their capabilities. Knowing our self-worth is very significant as it influences our overall well-being and decision-making. It will help us to improve and be a better version of ourselves. Hello again, everyone. Today, we will talk about the sexual self, specifically the reproductive system. When puberty occurs, many changes happen to the reproductive system. For the male, it will start to produce androgens, also known as male sex hormones. While female ovaries begin to produce estrogens and progesterone, also known as female sex hormones. The male reproductive system consists of the following. Testes, which produces spermatozoa also known as male germ cell. Scrotum, which is a skin sac that holds the testes. Prostate glands, are glands that excrete urine and seminal fluid. Penis, is the site of ejaculation, and where sperm cells are secreted. Sperm, which is the male sex cell. The female reproductive system, on the other hand, consists of the following. Ovary, which produces the ova also known as the female germ cells. Fallopian tubes, which are a pair of thin tubes that connect the ovaries to the uterus. Uterus or womb, it is the place where an fertilized egg or zygote develops. And vagina, which is a tube that connects to the outside of the body. After knowing the reproductive system, we will now talk about the different types of sexual orientation. We all know that our sexual behavior may occur in many forms, and it can be influenced in many aspects. Diversity of sexual behavior includes the following. Heterosexuality, it is the sexual attraction towards opposite sex. Homosexuality, it is the sexual attraction between same sex. Bisexual, a person who is attracted to both sex. Transsexuality, are people who were born with the opposite gender's body. They may do procedures such as hormone injections and surgery. Transgenderism, are people who identify as a third gender. Just like our fingerprint, every individual's sexual preference is different and unique. We must know how to accept and respect it, as well as how we also accept and respect ourselves. Because at the end of the day, our sexual identity is also our self-identity that represents who we truly are.
Hey there again. I just shopped a little. Speaking of shopping, do you know who is William James? If not, then let me introduce him to you. William James is also known as the father of American psychology. He made a concept called material self. In James' idea of material self, we represent ourselves not only from our body, but also through gadgets, friends we have, and the things that we do. For example, things like having iPhone, drinking coffee at Starbucks, or buying branded clothes may be used as a manifestation of good social standing. It may not be similar to owning a company. or having a house at an exclusive subdivision. But the former is much easier to acquire than the latter. Having the ability to find things that will define yourself, that will persist through time, were your life and achievements. Both defines who you are and what you are capable of. And at the same time, will provide you with the direction and knowledge on what to prioritize, resulting to a more cohesive and easier establishment of who you are as a person, and what you want to be in life. In my opinion, once you find things that define yourself, it will bring you knowledge on what to prioritize. Therefore, it will become easy for you to establish of who you really are, and what you wanted to be in life. As long as these things make us happy and it glorifies God, nothing will ever go wrong with our decisions.
Hello everyone. Today, we will talk about the spiritual self. According to William James, spiritual self is the innermost workings on the person's mind, behavior, beliefs, and even morals that involves every aspect of the human as a person. There are 4 manifestations of the spiritual self. First, is the person's will. It is the things that we want to achieve in our lives. Second, is the intelligence and abilities. It is the things that the person have confidence in doing. Third, morals. It refers to the things that are acceptable to a person, and the society. And fourth, is the values. It is the ability to distinguish what is important, and what is not. Did you know that religion is somewhat connected to your spiritual self? What is religion? Religion refers to the beliefs and behaviors related to spiritual reality, or supernatural beings, powers and ceremonial practices. And spirituality is concerned with being sacred in an individual manner. The spiritual self discusses the meaning and purpose of life. Our social relationships can either improve or weaken our beliefs. Spirituality can be regarded as a path to self-actualization because it requires us to focus and work towards becoming a better person in society. Hi, everyone. I'm here again. I'm here to talk about what Filipinos should know about their identity and how to develop it. Citizenship, or being a Filipino, serves a cognitive and motivational basis for one's beliefs and behavior. It helps us in knowing and developing our identity, especially our values, traits, community, and institutional factors. Aspects in developing Filipino identity. Individual attitudes and traits. This includes dualism of Filipino traits, pivotal interpersonal value, linking/social personal value, and many more. Institutional factors. This includes family, church, school, media, government, non-government, and people's organization. Macro factors at the societal. It is an immediate community with which one readily identifies oneself and less intimate grouping of which one is a member. Since Philippines is a democratic country, we also need to learn about democratic culture, how it was established. March and Olson's framework of democratic political development and Praswerky's concept of effective citizenship were used as a guide in the development of an action agenda. It is important for us to know about our institutional factors and identity as Filipinos. Enhancing the practice of citizenship and democracy is crucial to the awareness of the community.
Greetings, everyone. I am here to give you information about what is digital self, and how it affects our actual self. Do you know what is digital self? The digital self is a mask we put on to draw in the innovative world. With digital such as web pages, online games, virtual worlds, social media, and smartphones, internet self-extension is extensive.
But how does the digital self affect our actual self?
According to Higgins, the discrepancies between the actual self and ideal self leads to feelings of dejection. Our sense of self helps organize our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Our overall self-evaluation fails, they sustain their self-worth by looking at others' failures. Our digital self has become blurred between offline and online. Since nowadays it is becoming more digital, self-identity is becoming more fashioned in social media. In the present culture of constant connectivity, the internet is coordinated in our lives with the end goal, that the experience of being on the web is subjectively not quite the same as before. We should be careful about what we are doing in the digital world. Greetings again. Today, I'm going to talk about learning to be a better student. According to Kujipers, Mehers, and Gundy. In terms of having freedom in the classroom, there are several things that need to be noted. One of these is the freedom of the students towards their choices of what to learn, as well as how they are going to use such learning in real-life situations. Aside from having a good learning environment, where the needs of the students are being met, the students should also understand the value of what they are learning, and why they are learning those. As a person, growth is an inevitable goal. And change will always be present in what we do. To become a better student, some things are needed to be done, aside from just listening to discussions and following the directions taught by the teachers. A student should be able to have a better understanding of what they are doing, have the ability to recognize and sort the different information that they are encountering, and to be able to have a certain level of understanding on the concepts that they are studying and which could result for better application and appreciation of such learnings.
Understanding the self is very important, especially because the self-identity crisis is now rampant. It is important that we get to know ourselves well, so that we will know our strengths and weaknesses, which are our weapons in the situations we will face in our lives. And above all, our full recognition of ourselves is the gateway to our genuine happiness. That's all. Bye.